Hey everybody, welcome back to Nikki T Live. I'm your host Nick Taylor, and today I'm hanging out with Josh Siri. Josh, how you doing today?
Hey, Nick, doing pretty good. How are you doing today? I'm glad to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, no, I'm excited too. Yeah, I'm doing well. We were talking briefly just before the stream. Jokes aside about getting Lambos because we're doing PHP or Laravel. I'm I'm really excited to just chat about all things PHP and Laravel. But before we kind of jump into that, for folks
Yeah.
who might not know who you are, I know you started a new role recently at Laravel. I don't know if you want to speak to that or like maybe how you got into tech a bit or what you've been up to, and then we can kind of just jump into things from there.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Yeah, I guess as a kind of like a background to tech, I got into tech kind of doing like customer support. I've always been kind of like customer facing while
Okay.
learning some new stuff on the side as much as possible. And I've always said that I've been in kind of honorary DevRel roles at any company that I've worked with just because I love like making videos. I love like actually learning from customers what they're trying to do and kind of taking specific, products to the limit in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. But most recently, I kind of joined Laravel after the Laravel company after a couple
Okay.
of months of just kind of putting myself out there and
Okay.
just kind of living the dream, living the role. And so now I'm kind of brought on to Laravel as half technical support and then half DevRel.
Okay. No, that's super cool. And yeah, that's it's like uh so, so I guess I mean you were obviously involved in the PHP and Laravel community. It's something I think we didn't talk too much about it before the stream, but you've been doing Laravel content for a while, I think, or definitely PHP.
Yeah, and that's the interesting part as well. I know we talked a little bit before the stream, but you came from like the WordPress PHP world and then kind of moved into, other stuff. I
Yeah.
almost did the opposite. I didn't start using Laravel in my side projects. I kind of played around with it because I'm like, okay, I need to know how to do a app in Rails or an app in
Okay.
Phoenix or an app in Blazor or whatever you have. I just loved
Yeah.
figuring out how to do it. But
Okay.
I didn't start building projects with Laravel until about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
Oh, no way.
So
Okay.
I kinda came from the JavaScript world and was kind of annoyed with how difficult, at least in my mind, just the way my brain worked, the way I was building projects, I was like, I don't like how
Okay.
I need to grab a bunch of different things." And, it took me longer than it needed to do things like queues or
Okay.
jobs, and even auth was a bit of a tricky part a couple 2 or 3 years ago. And so
Yeah.
I moved into to Laravel and kind of haven't looked back. So yeah, I kind of didn't grow up in that ecosystem, but over the
Okay.
last kind of 8 months, 8 to 9 months, I've been just putting myself out there and doing as many videos about Laravel and just my learnings as possible. And now here we are, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. It's and like, yeah, just I think putting yourself out there in general, like, talk to people about the job market, like not not to get all kind of on a downer for a sec, but
Oh
like
yeah, yeah, go for it.
obviously the job market's been tough for a lot of people. And one thing I always tell people is it you kind of have to put yourself out there all the time now, and I'm not saying that's necessarily a good thing, because we've gone from being like, okay, I'm a dev and, I'm just going to go apply to a job or,
No.
do some open source or something and maybe I'll get hired to, you almost have to be like your own cheerleader slash manager slash content creator. And oh yeah, by the way, you're also a dev still,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Yeah.
I know not I'm not saying everybody has to go and live stream like we're doing or like put up YouTube content, but I've definitely noticed that the bar, and I've talked to a lot of people about this, but like the bar has been raised for like what the minimum is, and I'm not saying that's good, but
Mm.
that's to me that's the reality, I think, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. I think
yeah.
in the Laravel ecosystem, if you know a guy called, and he's past the Laravel ecosystem now, but his name's Aaron Francis. And one of the things that he always kind of says that I think is completely true, because I was unemployed for about 9 months before landing at at Laravel, and I was kind of figuring out, do I want to do
Okay.
like the whole startup SaaS founder thing? Do I want to do
Okay.
try to do just freelance? And then fell into the Laravel role. But one of the things Aaron Francis always says the more you put tell other people about what you're doing, whether that's
Yeah.
at your current job, the more you tell other people about what you're doing, just like stuff that you're learning on the side, the more you increase your luck and
Yeah.
chances in the future. So it's like one of those things where it doesn't necessarily land your dream job next
Yeah.
week, but you start to make incremental moves to
Mhm.
all of a sudden have luck increased up for your side.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah. I was actually I did a live stream with Brian Morrison, who used to work with Aaron
Okay,
at
yeah.
Planet Scale, and he told me the same thing of that's what Aaron said is like, I never thought of it that way, but like, yeah, increase your surface area for luck, and it's true. And violated sign in the chat on Twitch is like, just in regards to like, putting yourself out there, like that's why he started a Twitter account. Just doesn't mean you have to be like Primeagen or something, but like
Oh, yeah.
just you just have to do something, I think. And again, I'm not saying it's necessarily good, but that just seems to be the lay of the land at the moment. So,
Yep,
and
exactly.
and
Uh,
I can definitely say it works, like, because like my last, like, I used to work at Dev2, the blogging platform, and I
okay.
got noticed there because I was contributing to the project. I liked it, and
Mm,
I was working full time at the time, but like open source has opened a lot of doors for me personally, including my current job. So, but I also, doing the blogging and like what we're doing now, and people notice, and it doesn't, even if I'm not like, have 200,000 subscribers, I still hear people tell me, oh, you stream, eh? Or I saw that one, like, so it still helps no matter at like, how big your audience is, I think, as well. So
oh, yeah, that blows my mind every time. I mean, like, I wouldn't have the opportunities I have if I wasn't active on Twitter or my YouTube, and, both
yeah.
are under 5,000 subscribers, 5,000 followers at the same time. It's so incredibly crazy when people are like, "Hey, I learned something from you," or like, "I
Yeah.
really appreciated that," like, the aspects that you're able to do with just sharing something to you might not seem that exciting or that cool because
Yeah. Yeah.
you're living in that world. But if you start to share it, all of a sudden you realize more people like hearing that.
Yeah, totally, totally. No, that's cool, man. Yeah, so like let's talk PHP. Like I guess even I don't know how you want to do this. Do you want to maybe talk a bit about PHP first, and then like how Laravel came about? I honestly, I don't know Taylor Otwell. I know he created Laravel. I don't know the whole story. I feel like it's probably something where he was probably frustrated doing the same thing over and over and probably created a framework, I'm guessing. But I don't know if you know any history there, but if not, it's not a big deal. We can just kind of jump into things. But just curious if you had any thoughts there before we kind of jump in.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know the exact history, but I know that I think it was the first beta was released in 2011, and it was very much similar to what we were just talking about, where Taylor wanted to just build something for himself because he was like, "Hey,
Okay.
I'm redoing a bunch of different things I'm doing with Code Igniter and packages and putting them all together." And
Yeah.
similar to what was coming out of the Rails ecosystem at the time is how do you build something as a single individual? Um,
Yeah.
and he just started putting it together and just released it, and all of a sudden got a bunch of traction. He started working um, someone named Ian Landsman started basically said, "Hey, I love what you're doing with Laravel. Come work with me and just work on Laravel on the side." So it's one of those things,
Okay.
just like we were talking about, of he just started sharing about what he was building on the side, and now look where it's come from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it came out of that realm of there wasn't much in the way of creating beautiful applications in the PHP
Okay.
world at that time. It was kind of um, it's always been a push for uh, creating beautiful applications in a way that a single developer can't do it. So,
Okay.
how you write code, how you even comment code is one of the things that a lot of people kind of uh, C from Laravel, Taylor Otwell,
Okay.
has this structure of comments where it's like each line is a specific number of characters shorter than the other, where it's 3 lines of code, every single comment across the whole code base.
Okay.
But it's just that attention to detail that kind of makes Laravel what it is.
Okay. No, that's cool. And like you were saying before how it's like you got a little frustrated in the JavaScript ecosystem because you're like, what do you use for auth or what am I going to use for message queues and stuff? And I definitely feel that uh I work primarily in the React ecosystem at the moment,
Mm,
and like even there it's like, what do you want to use for state management? Do you want to use Jotai? Do you want to use Bob State? Do you want to use Redux? Do you want to like it goes on and there none of them are necessarily a bad option. It's just
yeah,
all of a sudden it's I don't know, it's a trade-off, right? Like some people are like, I just want to be able to have absolute control of everything I do in my project, which means you probably end up in some kind of analysis paralysis. And
yeah,
then there's the other side, which is I'm guessing like Laravel or like Rails or it's just like these are the opinions. Uh, this is how you do it, and like I I I kind of equate it to something like Prettier. Like I don't like all the formatting that Prettier does, but I honestly don't care at the end of the day because it's
mm,
standardized, you know? Because I actually lived through a period where people were commenting in PRs, can you add a bit more white space here and stuff? And like that is like a
interesting.
whole
Okay,
category of things I don't even need to worry about now. It's just like Prettier ran. So not exactly
yeah,
the same thing, but it like choices have been made and hopefully good choices, but yeah, I
yeah.
mean, yeah, I guess we can talk about that. Like Laravel is kind of like a batteries included kind of framework, right?
Yep, yep, and
Okay.
that's an interesting, comparison to, like, the prettier I haven't actually thought about that before, but, yeah, it's I always like to say, and again, this isn't, like, official jargon or anything, but I always like to say that, Laravel has opinions because it it's lived the walk, in the sense that so many people have
Yeah.
built with Laravel actual applications where those opinions matter, but at the same time, it
Yeah.
has incredible flexibility through those opinions. So yes,
Yeah.
you have specific options that you can choose for mailing servers. We just released a video of being able to work with resend, for example, but you can
Oh yeah.
use
I saw that. Yeah,
SES.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, or you can use, like, SES, or you can use Postmark. You don't have the opinion of, "Okay, you're locked into this specific choice," but at the same time, the opinion is, "Here's how to do mail," and you can just
Okay.
swap out what you want, or, "Here's how to do queues," and you can
Okay.
do Redis or SQS or whatever
Okay.
have you. So, the prettier option is really nice because you have those, like, almost configurations, but
Mhm.
it's still all in one. And one of the things I think is interesting about Laravel is it's every single thing that you touch, even the ones that are kind of additional to Laravel. So packages like
Okay.
Livewire, which is like the HTMX for Laravel,
Okay.
or packages like, let's say, Pulse, which is kind of um, a a monitoring system for Laravel. You don't have to use those, but because they're
Okay.
first party and they're maintained by the Laravel team, all of a sudden you
Yeah.
have those flexible opinions that are so tightly integrated within the framework. So
Okay.
if you wanted to use React or Svelte or Vue on your front end, there's an opinion on how to use those, but you still
Okay.
have that flexibility if you wanted to use Laravel as a separate API with a
Okay.
single
Okay.
page application. You can do that too. But there's also opinions on, like, the Tailwind UI folks, for example. Their tailwindui.com is built on Laravel with a
Yeah.
package called Inertia, which basically serves up the front end and connects it together without having to write an API call.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Yeah. I guess the question I had is like uh the way you were kind of describing all that, it's kind of like you can plug in your stuff as long as you respect certain interfaces, like some kind of pluggable system,
Mm,
but say like I'm brand new, which I am to Laravel. I'm just like I want to get started. Will I imagine for the some of the things you were talking about there, there's already sensible defaults that it ships with. So like uh I'm trying to remember which one you're saying, but like say like you said there's an integration for resend now, but if I wanted to start a Laravel app and I have mail, is there like a default mail uh server or mail plugin that comes with Laravel, or how does that kind of play out exactly?
Yeah, so I think the actual integration piece, the services piece is never a default, if that makes sense. Even
Okay.
with the database, for example, you're not going to change any of your code, but you are changing one, like a couple lines in your .env file if you wanted to switch from
Okay.
SQLite to MySQL, for example.
Yeah,
Most of your
okay,
code
gotcha.
doesn't change, but if you wanted to, you know, do a planet scale database, or if you wanted to do Terso, for example, you have all of that
Okay.
set up out of the box. Um, and same thing with like mail or I'm trying to think of a different option, like even things like pusher notifications, for example.
Okay.
The code to get that working is out of the box and it's default and it's opinionated, but
Okay.
you can swap out which exactly service fits into that mail or that category. So if you
Okay,
were to
okay,
change,
gotcha.
if you were to start with resend, for example, in a new Laravel application, and then for whatever reason you get acquired and they're like, hey, well, you should be using Postmark or something like that.
Yeah.
The swap to change that out is maybe like 2 lines of code.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay, yeah, yeah. Okay, so there's a good abstraction for you to just
Yep.
plug and play kind of. Okay. Better
Yep.
plug and play
Exactly.
than plug and pray. Okay, good, good.
Yep, exactly. You're not
Okay.
having to think through like, "Oh, how am I going to change everything that I need to do to have this?"
Okay, gotcha. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And that's similar to like the Rails ethos. I When I worked at Dev too, I was leading front end there, so I'm not really
Okay.
doing so much Rails, but like I did have I did have to go into it sometimes, not just for changing the UI, but in their templates, but sometimes I have to do some database stuff, but or like in the APIs. But again, similar to Laravel, it was abstracted, and like we were using Postgres, but you could plug in MySQL or whatever too. So similar ideas, and yeah, it's it's not funny, but I find people get really riled up about opinions sometimes, and it's like,
Mm.
just build something, like
It it is interesting that people, um, that seems to be a sticking point in the sense that too many opinions is almost a downside to a lot of people. To me, I think that's like if you're like, hey, I want to have that flexibility, fine, as long as like you're building things, I'm fine with that. But to
yeah,
me, I'm the type of person that if I'm like, hey, how do I do this? I want to be told exactly how to do it, and then I'll figure it out after that kind of thing. I like having
yeah,
the the magic kind of hidden
hmm
for me or obstructed for me, and
yeah,
just working the abstraction on top of that. It's
yeah.
one of the reasons why I've always loved Svelte and
Okay.
what they do on the front end, just because it feels I'm like, oh, I if I wanted to, you know, if I wanted to wait for this specific variable to change and then update something else, I don't have to write
Yeah.
all this abstraction. It just works.
Yeah, yeah, also Jason in the chat saying hey to both of us. I don't know if Jason knows you or not. Well, I mean, I don't know you super well yet, but I know Jason from he does Tech Commute on you might have seen that on Twitter before, but he's pretty active on Twitter, and he also streams as well, but he's up like super early. Like I'm on East Coast, so is he. So he's like I think he might be streaming at like 4 or 5 in the morning. So I
Oh,
catch some
okay.
of it sometimes, but what's he saying? Oh, he's talking like Seinfeld. What's the deal with Laravel? Okay. Yes, I get that reference. Yes, that's a old show, but yes, I get it. So, so I popped up the screen here for just for Laravel, and I don't know, like we were talking before. I'm super excited to like let's just build something, whatever it is. It could be a hello world if who knows if we make the next Figma in the next hour or so. Hey, that's awesome, but I don't know if we'll
Yep.
get that far. um,
Yeah.
but yeah, first off,
Yeah.
this is nothing to do with Laravel aside, but I really love the aesthetic of the site.
I
It's
I
it's
love
pretty sharp.
I love it too. It's one of those things where if you were to click on that ecosystem tab, it can start to get a little overwhelming, especially if you're coming from like the JavaScript world, just
Okay,
because there's a lot of stuff that comes out of the box. One of the things I
yeah,
think works really well for this site is it shows just the nature of what I of like how I think Laravel was intended to be built and intended to be created is
okay,
it's all about that beautiful and we the Laravel ecosystem calls it the artisan way. So if you're like, "Hey, I just
okay,
wanna write beautiful, clean code," I think that's what comes out of Laravel. You're like, "Oh, that looks nice." That's usually what
okay,
I think of when I'm looking at code, and I don't come from the PHP world, so I don't know that
okay.
much about other than I messed around with, like, PHP BB as a forum when I was in high
Yeah,
school and
that
stuff
too.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Uh
PHP's V is a classic.
So I don't know all the intricacies of, "Hey, that looks really ugly."
Hmm.
So I do know what Laravel's PHP code looks like, and I think that looks really beautiful.
Okay. Oh, cool, cool, cool. So I don't know. I guess
Yep.
to well, there's a couple things here. I've heard of Laracast before, laracast.com. That's is that from the community, these YouTube videos or learning materials, or is that specifically from the Laravel team or
That is from, a very good, uh, friend slash member of the Laravel team. Jeffrey Way is the creator of Laracast, and so while I
okay.
wouldn't say it's, like, officially under the Laravel, umbrella,
Okay.
it's the closest thing to a partner, if that makes sense.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm just
A
I'm just
whole
trying to
bunch of
pop
the
that in
Laravel
chat.
team, has created courses on Laracast as well, but it's one of the best ways to start learning Laravel
Okay.
because, I learned Laravel through Laracasts.
Oh, okay, cool, cool. Oh, I just pasted it twice. I'm just gonna go drop it over on Twitter for anyone interested. Okay. Yeah. I remember why people don't really uh comment on Twitter. It's like in a live stream. I can't even get the chat to show up for it at the moment. So that's probably why most people don't say much on Twitter or when there's a live stream. But anyways,
Yeah.
eh,
I,
okay.
I did earlier this week during the, during the holiday, I did a live stream of reading through the Laravel documentation, in one
Okay.
sitting, and, I was streaming to Twitter, but I couldn't figure out how to do comments on Twitter in the stream, so,
Okay.
I
Yeah,
figured it out eventually.
yeah, it pops up on the side like it's not like the comments under the actual post. It's this like dynamic widget opens and then you can type in there, but like for some reason it's not popping open for me right now, so I'm just gonna let it be, I guess. But yeah, it's I think they've got a bit of work to do there still.
Yeah, just a little bit probably.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Jason's saying you did a marathon of docs. You literally went through the whole docs?
I did, yep, read through every single it was kind of like a uh, promise that I made to Twitter after I got 1,000 likes on a post, um, and,
Nice.
read through everything um, other than the, first party packages documentation. So everything related
Okay.
to Laravel framework I read.
Wow. Wow, that's dedication, but I guess that's what you do for 1,000 likes.
It was
Cool, cool,
12
cool.
hours. Yeah, but it was a
Wow.
long time.
I hope you took a bathroom break.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Cool. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we can get up and running. We can try it
Yeah.
out. Okay,
Yeah,
if you
so
go to
yeah, where should I go? Sorry.
yeah, I would say to start off with, if you go to ecosystem and then you
Okay.
go to herd. So
Okay.
I think it's right there. Yeah. Let's go ahead
Okay,
and
this is what you were
download
talking about. Okay.
this. Yeah, that's gonna be the easiest way. There's a bunch of
Okay.
different ways, kind of similar to what we were talking about. There's a bunch of different ways to get actually Laravel installed and like get running on your local machine, depending on
Okay.
how comfortable you are with PHP, Composer, Docker, all that. But
Yeah.
Laravel also just makes things easy with something like this too.
Okay, cool. All right, so that's been dropped down, and yeah, I guess let's just talk about what this is a bit first. Is it just kind of like a virtual environment so that you don't even pollute your system and you can just still do dev or
It's basically a application that installs all the necessary components for you to run Laravel. So instead of you having
okay,
to on your Windows or Mac machine install PHP, install Composer, install the Laravel, and then have Nginx and everything set up properly to
okay,
start that. This just gives you it all without having it abstracts all that away as well. And it's
okay,
it's completely free for everything that we're going to be using today. They do
okay,
have a paid option as well, but
yeah,
it
okay,
installs Composer and installs PHP. If you wanted it to manage Node, it can do that too. That was
okay,
the first thing I installed on my new laptop, and
okay,
everything just worked out of the box.
nice. What's oh yeah, violated sign in the chat saying, "Whoa, whoa, what's wrong with setting up Nginx?" Yeah, I as somebody who's always had to set up Webpack on every project where I was working at, aside from like this is pre-meta frameworks, I definitely don't miss having to manually configure Webpack and stuff like that. It's nice to just I guess this is with the ethos of like, hey, I just want to build something. I don't know. It's not really a badge of honor to say like, "Hey, I spent 2 days configuring something to
Yeah,
and now we can actually do something." But okay, cool. So I opened up Herd. I just went through it quickly. I didn't sign up or anything. I just logged in and skipped for now so I could just get up and running, and it brought me to the docs here. So I guess where should we go from here?
perfect. Now, if it should be still running in your menu bar. Perfect. I think it looks like it is. If you were to click on that little H on the far left, I'm just curious if everything.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it
Yeah.
looks like everything's installed, everything's running. It gives you the ability to update, PHP versions too once it happens.
Okay.
Why don't we open up your code editor and now all of like the or open up your terminal, I should say.
Okay. Yeah, I got a
And
terminal.
now
Okay.
we can start
Okay.
actually creating an application. So if
Okay.
you go into whatever folder you
Yeah.
prefer, if you type
Okay.
Laravel new
Okay.
and then whatever name we want to call it after this is
Okay.
going to be like the site name.
Stream with Josh. Okay, wait. I might I
Okay,
might
we
have had
might,
this open before. Here, let me.
yeah, we might have to restart. Let's see.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's try that again. Here, wait. Laravel new stream with Josh. Worst case, I'll just close and reopen VS Code if okay, no, there we go. I just had to
Perfect.
it wasn't in the current shell I had before. Okay.
Yeah. And let's go ahead and get started with Laravel. So for the first, just to kind of clarify what this means is, again, it's one of those things of like flexibility, but still having opinions. Laravel
Yeah.
has starter kits that are first party maintained out of the box. Laravel
Okay.
Breeze is kind of just authentication. So anything authentication, it kind of gives you a dashboard view. It sets you up with um, Tailwind. It sets you up
Okay.
with if you wanted to use like React or Vue with inertia, it's like set with that, or probably what we're going to be
Okay.
looking at today to kind of get the full experience of what modern PHP looks like is Livewire, which is one of my
Okay.
favorites.
Yeah.
Um, and then Laravel Jetstream, which is that second option, is more of like the SaaS starter kit in a lot of ways. It gives
Okay.
you so much out of the box for free that's maintained. It only has a Vue and a Livewire port, but it
Okay.
has the ability to do Teams, has the ability to do API authentication, has the
Okay.
ability to do um, multi-factor or two factor authentication, and so it's kind of like the hey, if I was building an app, I might start with Jetstream. Most of the time, I'm
Okay.
starting with Breeze and kind of adding pieces as I go.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, cool, cool. So let's go ahead with Breeze then, and let me just get over here. Sorry. Okay, cool. All right. And you said to go with Livewire to start off?
Yeah, let's do the Volt functional API one. So this is the one that I'm curious to get your thoughts on what it looks like, because this is what I think it's PHP folks don't like this
Yeah.
as much. Um,
Okay.
because it's not like class based,
Okay,
but
yeah.
it reminds me a lot of what React server components look like. And so I like this
Okay.
style. And so this is kind of just we'll dive all in and kind of take a look at what this looks like now. What PHP Laravel
Okay.
looks like in 2024.
Okay. I'll just say no to this for now, I guess. Okay. What's recommended? I guess Pest is the testing framework that's recommended.
Yep. So Pest and PHP. So PHP unit's kind of like the old school version, and Pest is kind of like more JS syntax. It's very similar to even like a Cypress in a lot of ways. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, those are kind of like the two options again. If you're getting a
Okay, we can
theme
go
of
with
like, hey,
Pest.
we have options, but here's like the default.
Yeah, okay. I'll initialize the Git repo because I'll push this up after. Okay,
Awesome.
so already a really nice experience in the CLI. Okay, so recommendations, like I'm guessing if we're just doing local development, SQLite's good enough, or what do you suggest?
Yep, let's do SQLite. That's perfect. And it will automatically create that database file for you too.
Okay, cool. Oh, and I see it's already like running migrations and creating a few default tables here, like a users table. So you have like authentication. Sorry, like so you can use users right away. That's what's going
Yep.
on here. Okay.
Exactly, exactly. So that Breeze starter kit that I think even without Breeze, it still creates those migrations just because you're probably going to want users for most applications anyways. But for Laravel Breeze, it runs those migrations to say, hey, I have users. It has a cache table if you wanted to get
Okay.
up and running with Redis or some other cache. You can also use SQLite for a cache or
Okay.
jobs.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So everything installed. I've just reopened VS Code with the actual project now. I don't know if you
Perfect.
want to talk through the structure or if that's not really necessary right now.
Yeah,
Up to you, I
let's
guess.
first look at what's been scaffolded out for us. So you do npm run dev just to kind of get that. Uh, so
Okay.
it installs Vite with Tailwind to kind of run
Okay.
everything behind the scenes, and then in your uh, terminal, or if you were to click on that stream with Josh.test, Laravel
Yeah.
Herd provides these vanity URLs that we can pull up
Okay.
um, in our browser.
Okay. Cool. All right. So let me click on this. Okay. So site not found. Okay. Let's see here.
Interesting. I know what it is. If you go into herd, like the
Okay.
command bar, we have to kind of tell it where your sites are listed. So if you go into settings,
Oh, okay. Okay. Gotcha. My base, like here's the planet. Okay.
yeah. So I
Okay.
think
So, okay.
right there is where
Here's
we
the,
need to
okay.
add a new
How
one.
can I, why is it not letting me click
I
in
think
there?
is there a
Oh,
plus
there's a plus
button
button.
there? Or?
Oh, okay. It was grayed out. It didn't look like I could select it.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, okay.
Cool. All right. So there we go. Right. And okay, that should be good. Does that apply automatically or do I need to restart herd?
It should apply automatically if we refresh that page. Let's see.
Okay. Oh yeah. Cool.
There we go.
All right.
Perfect.
Boom. We're in
Okay.
business.
We're in business.
Okay.
So this is the default kind of look of a Laravel 11 application is what we're installed. And you can see
Okay.
there that login and register pages. Those are kind of like what we have out of the gate with Laravel Breeze. So if we were to,
Okay.
let's go ahead and just create a new user and see what happens.
Okay. So register. Oh, okay. It's Nick. All right. Yes. Okay. Thank you. One password. Okay. Save. Okay. Register. Okay. I'm logged in.
Perfect.
Okay, so right out of the out the gate, like I didn't even have to set up anything to have users in my project. So that's already like a friction one friction point removed.
And like for most of my projects that I build, even the ones that are, paid products that I have out in the wild, I haven't really touched too much of that flow because, login, register pages, those are pretty customizable if you want, but it gives you like this profile to set a new password. You have password reset flows, you have,
Okay.
delete account flows. All of that's just kind of given to you. And now you can just start worrying about actually building the application.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Okay, cool. So yeah, so we've created our first user. We've got it up and running. Like you said, it's running with Vite. I can tell that because it's got port 5173. And yeah, this is a nice touch with the coming from Herd with the vanity URL. So I imagine it's just updating the host file automatically or something on your machine to do that.
Yep, updating the host file, and you have the ability if you needed to install like PHP extensions and that kind of stuff, it can
Okay.
automatically kind of push that in. But yeah, it's based off of what your folder structure is.
Okay.
Um, and if we wanted to, like we ran the CLI to create that new Laravel application, but Laravel Herd actually gives you the option of creating a new app within its settings as well.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Cool. I just figured out something in my streaming software, which I didn't realize that's why I could never comment on something. So unrelated to what we're doing right now, but that unlocked something for me. So I couldn't. I'm using something called Restream, and
Okay, yeah.
uh, it works really well. But when I stream on my own without a stream key, I can comment to like YouTube and like wherever else. Well, it's only Twitch and YouTube, but when you have a stream key, I have to go to the actual link for the show to be able to comment as both of them, I think. So,
Uh,
anyways, side
Interesting.
note. Unnecessary tangent. Back to regular programming.
Awesome.
Cool, cool.
Yeah,
All right,
so why
so
don't we
yeah.
why don't we take a look at the structure, and I can just kinda give, like, a brief overview of what it looks like. This is the
Okay,
part where I know it can get a little bit overwhelming, and even Laravel 11, which is the newest version that we're running right now, it
okay,
simplifies this and cuts it down a lot more than it used to be,
okay.
but, if you're coming from, Next.js or Remix World or anything like that, this looks like a lot of files
Yeah.
because you have
Yeah. Oh, down here maybe. Honestly, it looks pretty pretty similar to our Next.js project. So,
well,
I mean, maybe
that's a
there's a
good
few more,
that's a good
but
thing. Yeah,
okay.
and there's probably it's probably there's a lot in the, like, app folder probably has a little bit more files. That's this pretty much where we're going to live is, in
Okay.
this app folder and then our resources folder. Those are pretty much the 2 places that we're going to kind of live and work from today, and we'll just start building something. But the app
Okay.
folder is kind of like what you would expect. It's all of your logic that is mostly on the back end. What we're going to be building today or using with Livewire, a lot of your
Okay.
front end logic is all in one file. So we're going to be using basically a single file component that looks
Okay.
like a React server component in a lot of ways, with PHP up on the top and your view on the bottom.
Okay.
Um,
Cool.
and uh and then you have your database folder. That's probably the next one to kind of like look at. And this is where all of your we have the SQLite database right there, but this is where all of your migrations or seeders you have
Okay.
now with things like Prisma and Drizzle and stuff like that. More people are familiar with migrations and seeding a database and stuff like that
Yeah.
um, than before. But at the same time, this just gives you the ability to have anytime we were to create a new migration, we can run it with the CLI and get all of
Hmm.
that set up in the database for us.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just looking at the PHP code because I forgot they use the double
The
colons,
double
but like
colons.
and the arrows, but like it's a curly braced syntax like this this right here looks exactly like JavaScript. Uh,
Mhm.
if you've done TypeScript, you might use the the different types of like public, private, internal, or whatever. But well, it
Yeah,
also looks like I did C sharp too. So, but I guess my
yeah.
main point is it
Privileged.
looks approachable. Like it's not like nothing looks really weird here. I guess one question I have, uh, this means function and that means setter. Is that right?
Yep,
Or what?
I don't know the exact terms, but I think that's correct. So, like,
Okay.
the user colon factory would be a facade, a facade function where the create would be a method of that factory. So the create,
Oh, okay, okay. This is like a dot then. Okay,
yep,
from an
that would be like
instance.
a
Okay,
dot syntax
okay,
within JavaScript. And then the name test user would be applying that. So test user is the name, test example is the email. So that would be more of just like the equal sign, I guess, in JavaScript.
okay, cool. Okay, no. Cool, cool. Yeah, and no, that's nice. You got database seeding, out of the box, and like you were saying, the migrations and cool, and the factory
Yeah,
here
and
just to build a user, I guess. Is that what it?
yep, and even here, one of the things that's newer with PHP, this is not even Laravel specific, this is PHP specific. After that public function definition, you have the array. So that's type hints right there. So
Okay,
we're saying that it's going to throw an error if you do not if what is being returned is not an array, for example.
okay. So if I did this, it does it. I don't have a PHP extension installed. Is that's probably why it's not showing an error.
Yeah, it's probably why. Yeah, the one for VS Code. This is one that I'm really passionate about because I use VS Code. A lot of people in the PHP Laravel world use PHP Storm, but
Okay,
PHP IntelliFence is probably the best option right now when it comes
okay.
to that. Another extension one that we might install while we're here, just before we get to the actual blade templates, if you search for Tall Stack, Tall. Should be like a,
Okay.
um, I think it's 2 words actually.
Oh, so okay, this one.
Yes, that package right there. Yep,
Cool. All right.
perfect. So that's just to kinda give us, some syntax highlighting for, um, Laravel Blade
Okay.
specifically, which is the view files that we'll look at. But yeah,
Okay.
if IntelliFence is running now, most of the time you will get some sort of errors when you're trying to return something that is not the type that you're expecting.
Okay. Is this the blade files here?
So this is not the blade that's a little confusing. This is basically telling Laravel's backend that this component exists in the sense that within Laravel you can have view files, which are blade files, but then you can also tell them that they exist so you can use some shorthands for components. And this is giving us the
Okay.
ability to say, I want to use a shorthand of app layout within my blade file. So this is setting up that component.
Okay.
And if
Yeah,
we were to
no,
take oh, keep going.
I was just gonna say there's somebody in the chat, Tristan R. Bailey, saying welcome to Laravel. So I don't know if that's somebody you know, but
Well,
not that
welcome to
everybody
Laravel.
in Laravel land knows everybody in
We,
Laravel,
we
but
all we all know each other.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like just like I know everybody in Canada.
Oh,
Um,
there you go.
cool. Well, thanks for joining us, Tristan. Sorry, yeah, I might interrupt every now and then when I see there's
No,
people in the
go for it.
chat popping up. But sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, yeah, no. If we were to take a look now at if we go to resources folder, and
Yeah.
then in the web dot,
Oh, I
or
see
sorry,
them
it's
here.
not,
They're
it's
all
not,
popping
it's
up.
not in web. It's in routes.
Oh, routes.
Uh,
Okay, sorry.
yeah. So if we, or sorry, not resources, just routes.
Oh, okay, okay, gotcha. Sorry. If I knew how to spell. All right, okay, cool.
Routes, and then that web.php. So this is where you have your router configuration. So it is Laravel does have an option if you want file-based routing. It's actually a newer
Okay,
option. But for the most part, everything is configuration-based routing in the sense that again, this looks fairly readable, at least in my mind. When I started learning, I'm like, okay, I know exactly what's happening here.
Yeah.
That those arrows underneath one of those, if you're not familiar with PHP, to those in the chat, are is basically saying this route view, I'm attaching a middleware, I'm attaching a name to that route view.
Yeah.
Um, and so again, this is something that Laravel provides out of the box in terms of like the middleware. So
Okay.
uh, if we were to, for example, log out and try to go into dashboard in our
Okay.
application, we already have this middleware of auth that we're saying, hey, we can't
Okay.
we can't do that.
Yeah. So I'll for just for fun, I'll go back to it. I should be redirect. Yeah, I'm redirected, obviously. Boom,
Yep.
login. Cool. That's nice. And yeah, this
Yeah.
reads pretty clearly. So like obviously slash goes to welcome. I guess one thing you don't need to do is it's implied it's slash dashboard, I guess. Like it's from the root.
Yep. So it's implying slash dashboard. You can have it as slash dashboard too, but yeah, the you can omit the slash and it would imply that it's from the root.
Okay, gotcha.
That's correct.
Cool. Yeah, no, and
Awesome.
this composes pretty easily. Like it reads well, like this is my view. The dashboard view is related to the dashboard route, and to get to it, there might be the middleware, and the name of it is dashboard, which might be a title that gets injected. Is that what that last part is, or
Yep, great look. So
okay,
yep, exactly. That first parameter would be where you're going to, so slash dashboard. The second parameter is the actual view file. So if we were to take a
okay,
look into our resources folder, slash dashboard, or it should be a dashboard.blade.php. That's just saying anything before the .blade.php is what that view is being injected into.
okay, okay. So there's the
Then that
dashboard title, I guess, or dashboard component.
That one's a little bit more confusing. So that is specific to Blade, where that double underscore before it is a um uh what's it called? Is a internationalization. So you could
Oh,
set
okay,
up
okay,
internal.
gotcha.
Yep. Yep. So you could set internationalization where anything like that would then be changed. So if we were
Okay.
to like remove all that and just put dashboard, that's just the title itself.
Okay, I got you. So this would be like the I18N keys that where you have your different languages and so on. And
Exactly.
okay,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Then the name parameter that you mentioned is if in your PHP logic, or in our Livewire logic that we'll take a look at, if you wanted to direct someone to slash dashboard, but you could also just use the name instead. So redirect
Oh, okay.
to dashboard. So if we were to change that to, like user dash dashboard, it can be different than the actual view parameters. So if
Oh, okay.
if that URI actually changed, you could still direct them to that.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, no, that makes sense. And yeah, like I said, like obviously some different syntax from what I'm coming from, but it still reads pretty clear. Like I don't find this that difficult to grok. Um, so that's cool. And I guess the require here, that's just like an import so we can have the auth middleware. That's what that is.
Yep, exactly. So in that auth.php routes to the right is where all of the login slash register the routes. Since we're not seeing that in this file, you
Okay.
can just create a separate route file for that, and that's what Laravel Breeze did for us out of the box. So that way, it doesn't clutter up this web.php route file that much.
Okay, and I got one more question, then we can definitely move faster.
No, no,
So
you're good.
this
You're
is
good.
this is more
This is
this is
perfect.
more like an includes, and this is more like an import. Is that the difference,
Uh,
or
did you say
or
the
similar?
require was more like an includes?
Yeah, or I guess no. This is
Yep.
more the import, and this is what is this? I guess.
Yep, the use I would say is more the import. So you're going to be doing that
Okay.
a lot. That's saying I want to have this available in that specific file. So that route helper. And in this case, Laravel calls those helpers facades, basically saying that, hey, you don't have to have the full definition of that specific function. We can just call it route instead. The require is more of and includes. Yep.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Yeah, just to so I know once we start moving around here. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So no, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, so this definitely looks this is easy to grok. I know it's not JSX, but clearly like X dash is some kind of syntax for, I guess, for blade uh components or markup. Is that what
Yep.
that's for?
And so if
Okay.
you remember back in that app/components folder that we were taking a look at, where I was saying, hey, Laravel pushes this as a easier so that you know that you have this component set up. That
Yeah.
X dash is saying, hey, we want to use that app layout component.
Okay. And that
So this
also
is
hel- okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep, yep. So this is very similar to like if you had a layout file, and
Okay.
now in the X slot you can kind of pass this in of if we were to take a look at our resources views components folder, we should have a app layout that we can see where the slot header is coming from, and it's just pasting
Okay.
this in. So this is just Blade itself. So this isn't any um,
Okay.
interactivity just yet. So this is all kind of more server rendered HTML.
Hmm. Okay. And I guess prefixing it with X dash allows you to distinguish it from regular markup too. That's probably a signal to like whatever's parsing the blade file, I guess. Or
Yep, yep, exactly. And that way you can kind of have different component names within your files if you have an X dash button versus just a button. That way it's easier to
okay.
you're not
Okay.
actually
Oh,
importing that anywhere. The X dash is the import.
okay. Cool. All right. Awesome. Cool. 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 So yeah. So where should we move to next? You think?
Yeah. Would you rather see what the Volt component for like login or register looks like, or should we just build one and then just go from there?
I guess we could build one. We got time. I know we're slotted till for like another about 45 minutes. Are you okay to go a little over if we do, or
Yep.
if you have a hard
Yep.
stop, that's cool too. Okay, cool.
No, I'm more than happy to
Um,
go over.
cool, cool. Yeah. I think it might be fun to build it out. If
Sweet.
that's cool with you.
Yeah, yeah. So let's open up our terminal, and then in a new one there, we this is how we interact with all of the. I would say I don't know. I'm not a Rails expert, but I would say you use the CLI in Laravel more than you would with Next.js, for example, but probably less than
Okay.
you would with Rails. And it all
Oh,
starts
okay,
with
okay,
PHP Artisan. So
okay.
PHP Artisan is the CLI prefix of everything.
Oh, literally PHP. Okay,
Yep. So
okay. PHP.
PHP, then
That.
space, artisan. And so that's the prefix for everything that we're going to use within the CLI. And then we'll start off with make colon
Okay.
volt.
Okay.
And then we'll give this component a name. So why don't we just say like playground or something like that? Or
Yeah, that sounds good. Cool.
perfect.
Just enter or any other parameters or
Yep.
arguments?
That is it for now. Yeah, we'll go ahead. Perfect. So
Okay.
playground.blade.php was created successfully. And then if we were to go into that, this is our Livewire Volt. And so you kind of see
Okay.
here that it kind of gives us a little bit of stuff to get up and running. But anything in that PHP block up there is going to be server logic.
Okay.
Anything in the div down there is going to be a blade. So
Okay.
why don't we go ahead and just render something out on the page
Okay.
in state. Instead of if we were to go up in the PHP um, block underneath that state, let's go ahead and call state as a function,
Okay.
and then we can go ahead and pass in an array,
Okay.
and then we can call we can let Copilot do that if we want to. We can just say
Okay.
name. This is where every single option in that array is going to be a a state variable that we're passing to the page. Looks like a extra
Okay.
Yeah, there we
There
go.
we go.
Perfect.
Okay.
And then what we can do now is in that div below, we can call with double curly brackets. So that's saying that's basically blade syntax for I want to use PHP. So double curly brackets, and then we can call
Is
uh,
this, is this right what it's popping up? I'm assuming it
that
is.
is that is right. That is right.
Okay, so we could do, okay, so, all right, so we could just do like paragraph. Uh, this is, and when you're mixing text and stuff, is it okay to do it the way I'm doing it right now, or do you need to use some kind of template string format, or is it
Nope,
all good
that's
like that?
perfect. Yep, just the way
Okay.
you're doing it right now. Perfect.
H2 and can be reached at, there we go. Okay, cool. And
Perfect.
there.
So
Okay,
now,
and sorry, just to be clear, so
yeah,
just for the folks in the chat, so this is the server boundary. This isn't client side state. This is state that's getting shot down. Well, actually, I guess this is actually, it's not shooting the state down. It's actually just going to render the template with it. Like this will just get rendered server side as one sentence here, right?
yep, that is correct. So
Okay.
the way we're doing it right now is that that state is being initialized and set on the server before it's even rendered, and then we're just rendering that out.
Okay. Cool.
Um, so yeah, if we were to go back into our dashboard.blade.php file
Okay.
that we have open there, what we can do is say that we want to use that new Livewire Vault component. So instead of, if we were to erase like you're logged in there in the middle bottom,
Yeah.
what we can do is use it's kind of showing that that's correct in the sense that we can use the Livewire colon
Okay.
uh
I should have turned
parameter.
off Copilot for the stream.
And then, yep, that's exactly it. So that's just passing in the name of whatever Livewire component that's being registered for us because we're using Volt. Anything in that Livewire file or folder can be then
Okay.
inputted into this component. So now, if we were to go back
Okay.
into our dashboard view,
Okay, there we go.
we have that state. Perfect.
Okay. Okay, that's nice. One question I have. This is, I guess we could consider this like a server rendered component. Um, it's not necessarily called props, but I imagine I could get stuff from something in here. Like I could have potentially like server state in here, or maybe like say like something from the query string. Could I pass that in as some kind of attributes in here, or how does that work with Livewire, or is that something I'm totally way off with?
No, yeah, yeah. I think there's a bunch of different ways you could do it. So you can definitely, if for example you had a Livewire component nested in a Livewire component, if in our playground we had another component, we can pass
Okay.
logic into that as props, and usually that's
Okay.
done by the colon or yeah colon parameter. So
Okay.
that would be saying, hey, we want to pass in specific props.
Okay.
Um, and then then you can receive those within the Livewire Vault component. One of the best ways to usually do something like that, especially within Livewire, though, is because each component is initialized. Most of the time, you can get that data within the component itself. So
Okay.
before this component mounts, even we can say some specific information.
Okay.
Um,
Like okay.
So one of the things that's really cool to do that shows off Laravel a little bit too is if we were to in our div, if
Okay.
we were to say uh instead of that dollar store name, we could
Okay.
do um we could do capital A for auth.
Okay.
So so auth, and then you could do colon colon user as a function,
Okay.
and then an arrow.
Sorry. Yeah.
And
Skinny
then we
arrow,
could
right?
do we
Oh,
have access to anything that the user has. So we could
okay. So their
input out
email,
their
everything.
name or email. Yep.
Oh, okay. cool. Okay, so okay, that makes sense. And then obviously I could get the email and stuff. So we come back here, this should say Nick Taylor now, or Nick. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. I think one thing that's interesting about this to me is I didn't have to import anything. Is this because these are like a module or just some kind of globally accessible thing that Laravel just knows it's always there?
Yep, exactly. You get it with the globally accessible. The
Okay.
facade is what Laravel calls it. There's specific ones that are globally accessible that we can kind of set within the config files of our app service provider, and that's just saying that anywhere in my PHP code, I have access
Okay.
to things like auth. Um, just to make
Okay.
again, I think the point of all of that is to make things as easy as possible for when you're like, "Hey, we're building applications," and most of the time you
Yeah.
need to be able to render out someone's username, kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, this makes it just pretty approachable to just build out like the dashboard. Like I could have my, well, there's already a user profile page I know, but this is pretty handy. And yeah, the syntax here, every language is different, but this reminds me I've done like handlebars or like
Yep.
nunchucks, and it's similar to that. Um, so again, you know, I I don't think nothing here is really breaking my brain in terms of difficulty, you know what I mean? Like obviously there's some different syntax, but
Yep.
you know, instead of import, it's use, stuff like that. Although interesting question I have here is, so
Yeah.
this is state that we're pulling in from Livewire. Is is function here because we just have to specify that this is a function? Like if I had done just like this, for example, like I imagine it's not going to work, but
Yep, and that's kind of like a trade-off of the functional API that we kind of selected at the beginning. So standard Livewire is more class-based, which would not need that function, for example, and
okay.
it would be in you would implement your logic, your state, and everything inside of one singular class component. That
Okay.
function is basically just saying, hey, when we compile all this, when Laravel compiles all of it to Livewire, and after when it's being run, we're just treating this as a closure function within each
Okay.
individual state, and there's a bunch of different other ones that we could use too.
Okay, yeah. No, I guess yeah, no, that's I think that makes sense in terms of trade-off because obviously the class-based stuff existed first, I imagine. So,
Yep.
um, okay,
And
cool.
and class-based stuff probably existed first in traditional Livewire, which was not Volt in the sense that the logic, the class, and the view layer were actually being separated into two different files. The Volt is relatively new within the last year.
Oh, okay,
I think a year, where it kind of just combines it all into one file. And so the functional API kind of came out of that to make it maybe a little bit more approachable to people who don't like this class structure.
yeah. It's kind of funny that like because when I was doing .NET, everything's class based. I mean, you can have,
Uh-huh.
well, when I was doing it, like I know a lot's changed, but like it's typically a object oriented programming language. Maybe not, maybe it's a bit of both now, but um, and then like I don't know. I feel like when React came out, it's like everybody, well, React started off with some kind of classes too, but like there's just been this whole movement that classes are bad, and it's not necessarily that they're bad, that they have different purposes, I guess, and
Yeah.
I've definitely been bitten in the ass before by class based stuff when you inherit too much, like, oh, these two things are common, and then like and then you basically base it on something that inherits from another thing, and sometimes I find after like two levels of inheritance you're basically asking for trouble, but I
Yeah.
think it's just a tool at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I started learning Livewire, of course, before this functional API existed. And so I use the class, and I kind of go back and forth of which one I like. I think the functional definitely it looks more readable and maybe approachable if you're not familiar with any like class-based structure. Um,
Okay.
and it's maybe a little bit smaller, like a little bit cleaner. You don't have to have a full class component this is kind of nested into. But yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of go back and forth, and it's one of those things where like you can do whatever you want. Most people associate the functional API with Volt, but you
Okay.
can use class if you wanted to. And even if you want
Okay.
to even if you want to mix and say like I have three components that are functional API, three components that are class, you can do that if you want to.
Yeah. No, totally, totally. Cool, cool,
Why don't
cool.
we do
Yeah, no,
some
this is pretty neat.
interactivity with this then? We'll say so this is basically just all still server side render, but what if we wanted to, change something on this page after we click a button? So this is where kind of
Yeah.
Livewire comes in. So after that state, why don't we just go ahead and make a function where we can increase our age? And we
So,
can be like, and actually, this is instead of a function, we'll call it by a dollar sign. So this is where the Lambo comes
okay.
in. Dollar sign, we can just be like increase age maybe,
Okay.
and
And
then
then
that's not completely accurate. So, but we could do like you could either do a shorthand function syntax, or we can do like the full function. So you can do fn if you wanted to, and
okay.
do it all in one line, or we can do
Okay.
like the whole function. But yeah, instead
Yeah.
of state, what we can do is anything within this PHP block can be referenced by dollar sign this.
Okay.
So in our PHP block, if we want to change anything like age, email, name, or even like if we had any other state, what we could do is, and we actually don't need the curly brackets since we're in
Oh, okay.
a
Oh,
shorthand
oh
function.
yeah, one liner. Okay, yeah, yeah. Okay.
So we can do dollar sign this,
Okay.
and then arrow for age. We can just do plus plus. Yep.
Okay. Like it's got here. Yeah. I
Yeah.
always
So
flip
this is
flop between if I should have Copilot on during a stream or not.
yeah, it's always tricky. Just started turning it off for videos, but then I realized I used it a lot when I wanted to do like Tailwind of like, hey, I want a button and just give me nice
Okay.
looking files. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
would have been helpful. So I wonder if I
Okay.
could like turn it off for specific only in HTML. That'd be interesting.
Okay.
Um, Sweet. So now we have this function that we can essentially call from our front end component. So what we can do is we can set up a button, and actually let's use a button that we have as a component. That's going to be
Okay.
x dash primary dash button,
Okay.
and this is just one that Livewire or Laravel Breeze ships out of the box.
Okay.
And then here is where we'll kind of add an attribute, and this is similar to HTMX. This is similar to maybe Hotwire, where we're going to call
Yeah.
wire colon click,
Okay.
and then uh, we actually don't have to. Yep, increase age. So what Copilot's doing right now is correct. We're basically anything within the wire colon directives. There's a bunch of them. There's click, submit, model, loading, and we'll kind of work our way through at least a couple of those.
Okay.
We get to call any function that is in our Livewire component, that PHP block up above.
Okay. So this is kind of like this like a RPC call
Yep.
to some degree. Okay. So basically a server action for folks in Next.js or React land. Okay. Did
Oh,
I miss
we
something?
uh we forgot to put the function back in the use import.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Cool. Oh, and it tells you. So cool. All right. All right. Let's refresh. Okay. So boom, boom. Okay. So that's nice. I'll zoom it in a bit for the people in the back. I should put some padding in there. It's bothering me, but we'll do that in a sec. Okay. So this is cool. So this is nice. And yeah, I haven't done any HTMX. I did a bit of Hotwire when I was at Dev 2. And yeah, so this makes sense. And this, I guess this is the whole thing where people say like, it's not that you don't need JavaScript, it's just abstracted away for you, right? Like there's a minimal amount of JavaScript to do this, but it's there.
And
But you just
yep, and we can even open up like the network requests in our browser and take a look. But and this is a really bad. I actually, just put out a personal video of like when do you use Livewire and when do you use um, JavaScript called Alpine, which the
yeah,
creator of Livewire is who created Alpine JS as well. So they're very tightly
okay,
knit in the sense that you can use. We have Alpine already set up for us, and we could write this in Alpine as well. Um,
okay,
but anything within wire colon, anything that we're calling a function from the server, it's going to be a call to the server. So the increase
okay,
age is going to call that method from the server, and we're going to have to wait for that HTML response back. So instead of returning
okay,
JSON, it's basically just returning HTML um, and then substituting that out using some magic on the back end.
okay. So yeah, so if we take a peek here, let's go. So I'll zoom this in a little bit more for folks in the back. Okay, so we're posting, obviously, and if we look at what the payload is, so okay, there's a token in there. I don't know if that's for just of avoiding, just so not anybody can just do an what is it? Cross-site request forgery. I don't know if that's what that
Yep.
is, but yeah.
Yep. You got it to kind of help with that.
Okay. So yeah, so this is like broken down a bit here, but it looks we're basically sending a JSON payload, it looks like, which contains all the current state, which is under data, it looks like. Um, there's some more information in here, like I guess there's some method. Okay, there's a bunch of stuff in here. So this is just basically most of the okay, it's a snapshot of the page
Mhm.
serialized. Is that what that is?
Yep, I believe so. It's a snapshot of what the page currently exists, so that
Okay.
when we call that method, we're not. It's not re-rendering the whole page, or it's not even like
Okay.
replacing the whole HTML. That way, it can compare those snapshots and say, okay, here's what actually changed. Here's what needs to be replaced.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. So this is I would say this is not it's definitely not virtual DOM, but it's like because that's in memory, but this is like just yeah, what changed and only laser focus insert so you don't end up like because any unnecessary renders in the DOM can slow things down. So
Yeah,
okay, that's cool. Yeah, no, this is nice. Yeah, no, it's I guess this is where it comes with the trade-offs, so like where people like don't necessarily like this because it's too much magic, maybe. But like
yeah, I can
honestly,
see that.
like I haven't, you know, I don't see anything bad about this. Like, and I guess the other thing too is like you can use this, right? But like there's nothing stopping you from still doing like air quotes the harder way if you if you wanted to.
Yeah,
So yeah, okay.
exactly.
But no, this
And
is
there's
nice.
And there's a ton of people, like even like inertia, which is the glue to hold a React or Vue or Svelte um, file to the back end within Laravel. People still use that, but there's a ton of people who are still using Laravel for
Okay.
just its API, and so you're doing all that magic yourself. Where even HTMX with Laravel is a thing. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'm one of those
Uh,
that I like this kind of magic to know that, hey, here's what's happening on the server, here's what's happening on the client, and now I just write my code kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And Jason in the chat is saying Breeze is clutch and he's wondering when Volt was making an appearance. Uh hey Josh, thanks for joining. I missed your comment, but what is this Laravel thing? Uh I'm being sincere here. I'm not sure if you're being sarcastic or not, but if you aren't being sarcastic, Laravel is a would you call it a meta framework or what would you call it? Just a PHP based framework or
I would say a PHP full stack batteries included framework. I think he
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Or just
Yeah,
Josh.
okay. Yeah.
For
Okay.
for everyone
Cool, cool.
else who's not
Yeah.
Josh.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, totally. Just Joshing, eh? Okay, cool, cool. All good, all good. Anyways, no, I was just curious because I can be very sarcastic, but I'm not. I'm not typically sarcastic in like text or like format just because it could totally be taken the wrong way. So
That is true.
cool.
That is true.
Yeah, but I think this is great that you got me to pull up the network panel just to show folks, like, yes, there is some magic there, but there is good old fashioned, like some, there's some stuff actually doing it. It's not Harry Potter stuff here. Um,
Yep.
cool.
Exactly. And I think like it shows that, you have a clean, even if we're co-locating files, which some people don't like, but
Yeah,
regardless of that, you have a clean break of what happens on the server and what happens on the client. Anything within those wire colon things is
yeah,
interaction with the server in some way, shape, or form. And we could even add like a for example, Livewire has magic where you could have a wire colon loading. And so if we were to say have this a div with a loading spinner, for example, that wire colon loading would only show up that div that has the wire colon loading initiated in it in its attributes would only show up when we're doing any request to the server. Of course, you can target it too. We're saying, hey, I
okay,
want this to say increasing age dot dot dot. For example, you could set it up specific to that increase age function, so that way we
okay,
know we can have that almost the client side aspect of, hey, here's what's happening on the server, show it to the user. That
okay,
way it's not just a full server request that we're looking for,
okay, cool.
if that makes
Now,
sense.
yeah, no, it does. And like, so we're obviously just doing a click here. This is a classic, like a counter example, but
Yeah.
uh, I know how to pass data to the server, like in an API request. If I just do like a fetch and I do a post, if
Yeah.
I want to like right now we are actually changing state here, but like say I want to pass something to the server to, I don't know, potentially change the age. Like for example, increase age but by like 5 years because it's like dog years, not human years or something.
Mhm.
Um how how would you, I guess two questions. One, can you do that with Livewire? And if you can, I guess how do you go ahead with passing, I guess, arguments to a live wire function on the server?
Yep. Yep. So yeah, you definitely can within that increase age, within the wire click, you could increase age and you could call it as a function. So basically
Okay.
being able to pass in any parameters there.
Okay.
And so that can be done. And I think that would probably be like the easiest way because then you're not having to set a separate state. It's just as a
Okay.
parameter of that specific function.
Okay.
But if you were to say like, "Hey, I wanted to have someone be able to bind up a wire or bind up a text input, and they can input, a specific number there, and every time you increase age, it's binded to whatever that
Okay. Yeah.
number
Yeah.
is in that input." That's can be
Yeah.
that can be possible too.
Okay. Yeah. I got you. So like, we could also just do like uh increment value here, for example,
Yeah.
and I could set that to 2, and then this would just be age plus dollar this
Yep.
dot increment value. Okay. And that would
Arrow,
come.
arrow
Oh,
instead
whoops.
of
Yeah. Sorry.
dot. Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
JavaScript reflex. That would actually make for a good VS Code extension. Somebody coming from JavaScript to PHP, it updates the
just
syntax
automatically
easily.
up to.
Yeah. Okay. What did I do wrong here?
Um,
That's to increment value. It's not failing. It's calling it, but it's not. It doesn't seem to be evaluating this. Let me see what it
trying to think
payload.
of.
It says it returns 27. So, and if I look here, let me refresh just to see. I don't think that's the problem, but
Oh, wait, go ahead and, go back to your code real quick. Okay, yeah.
So,
So we need to set this age to this age plus this
oh,
increment value.
okay,
That
okay,
makes
okay.
sense.
So, okay, so this should be like this.
I don't actually know the shorthand syntax for it. I think there's an easier way to do it, but you can do it would be this age equals
Okay.
you don't have to do the yep, and then arrow for the this dot age instead of
Oh, yeah, yeah. Sorry, sorry. Classic JavaScript fumble. All right, cool. Okay, so okay, there we go.
there we go.
Nice. Cool. And okay, so that's one way, like if we know like we have the value on the server.
Yep.
But again, like you were saying, if we want to pass it directly here, maybe I do this and then like uh would I pass in like a value in here like that? That would get picked up here, or how would you go about that?
Yep, that would be one way of doing it, and now I'm second guessing on what the best way. So then you would then within yeah, so then you could do instead of this increment value, you could call this age plus incrementer.
Okay, so let's try that for fun. Let's say 4. Come back here. I'm having a lot of fun, by the way. If I look a little serious at points, it's just because I'm typing.
No, you're good. You're pulling out all the fun. I think it's actually instead of the double curly brackets, I don't think we have to use that.
Okay. Oh, you mean you think I could pass it as a string still?
Oh, that's why. Oh, because we didn't have quotations for you surrounded curly brackets with quotations.
Oh, okay. So like this, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay. I understand. Okay, I understand because uh template wise, it has to be in quotes and then we're just injecting the value. Okay, I got it.
Yes, correct.
Or
Correct.
or not necessarily value or whatever the expression is. Okay.
Parameter. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so if we
And
come
this
back here, let me
well,
okay, increase age.
I don't
Okay,
know
let's
why.
see here.
I'm having
Uh,
a blank on what what the syntax is for it.
no, no worries. I'm also kind of like unintentionally putting you through the grinder, I guess, a bit. Let's see here. Wire click. Let's see what.
I think
Uh,
let me see.
well, let me try this. If I do increase
It is
age.
yes. So I don't believe we actually need the
The curlies
double
or
curly brackets. I think we just
okay,
call increase age with the function like that.
okay, and then we'll put the 4 and come back. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, yeah, that's working.
There we go.
Okay, so I guess what's happening is it's parsing the string because it knows it's a special attribute, and then it's able to it just parses out the arguments and the function. Okay.
Yep, and you could use for example, if we wanted to pass in like an actual state variable there, you could use double curly brackets
Okay.
inside of that argument where you could yeah, you could pass in the age and increase it by
Okay.
the age.
Yeah, so this dog is gonna age really fast. Wow. Sorry, my condolences to your dog. Or not
Sorry.
your dog. He was a good puppy. And then he was a anyways. Okay, so that's cool. Um I guess one more question about managing or not managing but passing in stuff. If I were to like let's say I don't know, I have a value that I want to pass in from HTML maybe, or because like for example, like you could have something
Mhm.
like this, or like maybe it's just an input that
Input?
somebody is
Okay,
actually. It's
let's do
like
it.
maybe it's not even wired into Livewire. Like maybe this is just like type equals number, and like we'll just say value equals, we'll start it at 5 or something, and then like we'll just give it a label. Sure, we don't need we can just wrap it. Ba, ba, ba. Yeah, so we have this value. Okay, I guess I would need some identifier. So like obviously I could have an ID here like yo, but like I guess in Livewire Volt LAN, how would you approach that?
Yeah, that the best way would be to bind it to some sort of state attribute. And so
Okay.
the what we could do is in our state array, we can say another one of like maybe like, and maybe we're just doing the increment value because we already have that.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
Um,
okay, cool.
what we can do then is do wire colon,
Okay.
um, and then we're going to call model. So this is
Okay.
basically saying we want to bind this to a particular value, and then so equals, and then quotations for that increment value.
Okay.
And so what this is doing is basically saying there's a couple different directives. And so then one thing to note for Livewire, after the wire colon model, you have a dot syntax where
Mm-hmm.
you can change up some things in the sense that if we wanted this to be binded in real time and live, you could do that. You
Okay.
could there's different attributes for saying like you want it when it's on blur, on change, for
Oh, okay,
example. But
okay, I see. Yeah.
the wire model attribute, for example, it would be wire colon model dot change, for example.
Okay.
So in
Okay. Uh, I see debounce and lazy.
that's weird that doesn't show it.
It
It's
could
probably
be
the
possible. Okay, so then, okay, wire model dot change and then incremental value.
and we actually could just add it to the first wire model that we have. So
Oh
we don't
yeah, yeah.
actually have
Okay,
to
okay, okay.
create a new one.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. Dot change, and let's. Okay,
And actually,
cool.
it's good to know it, but we don't actually need it for this, and I can explain why. So we can actually remove that dot change, but there's dot change, there's dot blur, there's dot live, and we can even debounce that live by
Okay,
specific milliseconds. All of that's just to say that you have that functionality. If, for example, you wanted a search field where you wanted to
okay,
return attributes, usually you would want that live and not
yeah,
the default of wire model is going to be um, it doesn't actually change it on the server, it doesn't talk to the server and try to store that value until you run a function on the server. Now,
okay,
because we can remove the change because we have this wire click increase age,
yeah,
and then where now we can pass in that increment value
okay,
there.
okay. So just to, I'm just gonna talk it back to you. So
Yeah, yeah,
so
go for it.
so wire obviously for live wire, model is always associated to what state is. Like that's like um it'll never map to anything else, right? Like it would just be like, well, assuming we're in a Volt function component, state is always going to be the model. Is that
Yep.
correct? Or okay,
Yep. So if you have state, wire model is just going to bind that input field. I mean, I think the only way you would use it would be an input field.
yeah,
So
okay,
form inputs using the state, and you would bind it with wire model. Yeah. So you're
okay,
correct.
cool. Yeah, okay, cool. So now we're passing in the increment value here. So there's a couple things going on. So I could change this to 4 and now increase, what did I do?
I
Let's
think
do,
I think because sometimes within Livewire, if we don't refresh the first time you do it,
oh, okay, okay. So
it's
let
not
me
gonna save it
refresh.
as much.
So the first thing that should happen is when I change this and like it should make a call to update the increment
So It
or
actually won't, because the wire model by default is not going to run until you run any kind of function. It's not going to
oh
try to
yeah,
change it
okay,
on the server until after we run the wire click. So then that's when it will
okay,
kind of try to accept and bind it.
okay, okay, I see. Yeah, okay, no, that makes sense because like obviously if you're just like, no, that's not it, you're like making all this unnecessary server requests. So okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And that would be a great
Okay,
option for like blur, I guess would be a good option for colon model dot blur.
okay,
Um,
and okay, gotcha. And let's see what. Okay,
and if we want to, we could even input this into a put wrap both of the label inputs into a form,
yeah,
and we could uh and then in the form attribute, what we could call is wire colon submit,
yeah, and then
and that
we
would
can,
be the increase age
yeah, okay, gotcha.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, forms are always underestimated. I'm
Oh yeah.
glad you brought that up because I'm actually giving a conference talk about
Oh really?
forms because, well, like some like not so much like I don't want to say classic, but like for example, something like Laravel or like ASP.NET that I used to use, or if you look at Rails, like the whole thing with like updating models and stuff, they typically have these scaffoldings that it's already built with a form, you know? And
Yeah.
I think in more recent years, it's I think it's partially newer devs, but also maybe people just not being given the right path through the framework have like not necessarily leveraged forms, and they're still very powerful. Like even though it's because it doesn't matter what you do on the internet, even if you got like cool animations and like you're dragging stuff around, at some point you got to send stuff to a server,
Yeah.
and it's almost always a form, right? And so like the talk's gonna kind of revolve around, you know, HTML forms are great and like we kind of lost our way, and like I definitely want to talk about previous frameworks that are typically the server side based frameworks have kind of baked in forms to some degree, and I think it's like the whole spa evolution is where we kind of lost our way a bit. So that's kind of, I haven't written the talk yet. It got accepted, but so now I
Awesome.
have to write it. But anyways,
No,
it
I
just
love
made me
that.
think of it.
I love that, and
Um,
that's why, like, it's I love showing that within Livewire because, and then we could do a type equals submit on that button,
yeah,
um, so that we could then Livewire kind of hooks into that form and saying, okay, if you press enter in this form, now it's going to actually submit it because that's the wire colon submit that we included. But the type submit also makes that button say, hey, we're submitting this. And I think that's
yeah,
the interesting part is like Livewire, you can bind things with wire click if you wanted to
yeah,
run things on the server,
yeah,
but you could also just, you know, you could everything's a form, like you mentioned. Everything's a form. So you could also just, bind this up to a form itself.
yeah, exactly. Sorry, I'm just the front end in me is just
Oh, you're
doing
good.
cleaning up some stuff here. Okay, cool. Whatever. And then let's give that a boom boom. This should be over here. Let's give another one. Do, do. But yeah, no, and well, the other thing too is that I'm glad you brought up about the forms is because once it's in a form, then you can actually run form validation. I don't know if Livewire has any built-in validation or not, but I mean, if it doesn't, there's definitely just regular form validation. Like I can say like required, or like this can't be more than, the increment can't be more than like 10, for example. But anyways,
Yeah.
so yes, so
Yeah.
yeah, so I did the enter like you said, so that's, so it does submit the form. We can also do the increase because it's a button that for the form. But cool. All right, nice.
Yeah.
Um,
And you're correct about validation. So the good thing is since Livewire and in those PHP functions up there, since Livewire is, it's Laravel in the back
yeah,
end, like we can call any methods that Laravel has. And so we could call and Laravel has validation built out of the box for any input. So if we were to say, like, if we had a form where we were needed to submit our name and age, we could say that name had to be required and a
yeah,
minimum of 3 strings or whatever that might be. and
Yeah.
name or and a string where the
Okay.
number or the age had to be a number, for example. That validation is built out of the box. And the good thing is Livewire and Laravel Blade kind of gives you that live validation on the front end too. So you kind of have those
Yeah.
validation errors that you can then display to your user on the front end.
Yeah. No, that's nice. It's yeah, no, definitely. See, and that's the nice thing. This is what I mean about like uh, you know, a framework, paving success for you in terms of building a good experience. So that's cool, man. So
Yeah.
I know we're over right now. I know you said you're good to go for a bit more. I'll probably have to have a hard stop in 24 minutes, but
Okay.
or if you have to go before then, that's okay too.
No, that
But
works. That works for me.
I was wondering if we could let's just get rid of
Do
this
some
stuff up here. Yeah, yeah. I guess one thing I thought might be nice to do is why don't we actually don't need this div now, but why don't we do some kind of rudimentary form validation with Livewire?
sweet.
Um,
Why
cool.
don't we do
So
that? And why don't we also like link it up to the database too?
yeah, okay, cool, yeah, okay. So
And we
all right,
might
so if
actually
we
need that div because I think it needs to be a single div that we put everything
oh, because it's
into.
got to inject to update stuff or
I believe I don't know if it needs to just be a single component. So I don't know if the form would actually work. It probably would give us an error if we tried, but I
okay,
think it does need to be surrounded by div.
okay, cool. All right, that's all good. Okay, so we've got our form here. So like, I guess what should we use my actual user account now that we created instead, or
So
what do you recommend?
let's think of like what's a good way. What kind of form should we build? What's a good way of putting it?
Yeah. I guess let's see here. Could don't need to make it anything too complicated. I don't know. May, maybe just to keep it simple with just a input for now. So I guess like I don't know, how many
Yeah.
pets do you have, and then we'll just put a
Okay.
number.
Perfect. Yeah. So let's go ahead and before we even start putting, well, yeah, go ahead and do that, and then we'll, how many pets do you have? And so what we can do is we'll link a pets model to your
Okay.
user. So what we can do is PHP artisan,
Okay.
and then we're going to make
Okay.
colon model, and then this is the name of the model. So why don't we call it uh, pet,
Okay.
and then we'll do space dash m. And this is just saying
Okay.
that we're going to create a migration for this pet as well. So that should be all that we need right
Okay.
there.
Okay. So when you're saying migration here, what this is going to do is it's going to create a table and an association between that table and my user table,
It's going
or
to scaffold out the file to do that, but then we
okay.
can, so like in Rails, for example, you would probably pass in, okay, I want a migration with name, string, you would probably pass all that into the CLI. For the
Yeah.
most part, what we would do is just scaffold that out in the migration file, and then we can change that, and then we would run the migration after we change
Okay.
it
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Yeah, yeah. It's yeah. It'd be a little scary if it ran the migration right away. Not so
right
much
away.
for
Yeah.
local development, but okay, yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay. So we've got the migration file generated. So what's the next step now?
Perfect. Yeah, let's go to that migration file, and we'll go ahead and maybe we'll do a pet name and their maybe like a should we do like their type, like what, like if they're a rabbit or a
Okay, yeah, yeah.
dog or something.
Yeah, okay.
So
So okay.
underneath, I usually do it between. It doesn't really matter, but I usually do it between the ID and timestamps is where we can kind of put additional
Okay.
columns. So we would do table string name.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah. Name.
it would be a
Okay.
string function first, and then a name.
Oh, sorry. String.
And then in the yep, in the function brackets would be name.
Okay.
Perfect. And then so this is Laravel's database ORM for the most part in a lot of ways. That string name, we can add additional parameters to it if we want to. If we want to say like, hey, this is nullable in the database, or
Okay.
like we're associating with something else. But for now, we'll just do table string of name and maybe like another table string of breed, I guess, or like
Yeah.
type. I don't know. That's a good word.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, yeah, I guess. We'll just assume dogs. So let's just, well, what we call the pets, we'll just say, I guess, what do you call it? It's not type. It's the, like canine,
Species.
feline, species. Yes, thank you. Okay.
Perfect.
We
And then we'll
we
go ahead
we
and attach this to the users table. So before string, what we can do, and this is just for um, clarification's sake, we can do table and then it will be foreign ID, and that's what GitHub Copilot is doing is correct. So this is basically just saying that we're linking this to a user in the sense that the foreign ID says it's going to create two columns, user and then user ID. Then constrained is basically saying anytime that the user was deleted, we'll delete the pets as well. So it's
Oh,
got
so
cascading it.
yeah, cascade. Okay, that's nice. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that seems to be enough for, and this will obviously be a specific row. Like we could have many rows, obviously. So we'll just insert one for now in our demo, I guess. But okay, so I can say go ahead and save this and close this, or anything else we need to
Yep,
do in here?
save it, and then we can pull up the CLI again, and we'll run PHP artisan migrate,
Okay,
and that will
nice.
actually run the migration that we just created. Then one
Okay,
more thing before we go back to the Volt component, we'll pull up the pet dot PHP, which is the model class.
okay.
And then in here, we just need to, by default, Laravel says you cannot input anything into the pet unless you specifically say, hey, we can input their name and type, for example. So
Okay,
in this model, and this is where we can actually do some um, connections as well. But what we'll do is first we'll do protected,
okay,
and it was kind of popping up as well, protected fillable. This is name species. This is just saying that we can actually input name and species into the database. And one more is what we'll do is do a public function user. And
okay.
what GitHub's
What
doing is basically
Copilot's
just
doing?
that's a great thing about using PHP. Copilot knows a lot of PHP.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, it's really true. And we were, uh, we run these Twitter Spaces at Open Sauce usually every couple weeks. We didn't do one this week or last week because of our launch week, but there was a talk, we were talking about AI, and people were saying like some languages or frameworks might actually win out just because of AI tools where they just know them better, like like React or like PHP,
Mm,
because it's like it just knows it and it does it well, and like people just might be like, okay, good enough, and like even if there's something, a better option, they might just end up adopting this just because of AI tooling. So
yeah,
um
exactly.
okay,
Exactly.
but cool. And the
Um,
one thing I want to call out here is like we haven't even looked at a database like at all. Like I haven't opened up like, Postgres or well, MySQLite, but like, you know what I mean? Like this is really nice. Like, you know, we're creating, like, I know this is a database association here. This is linking
mhm.
the two tables, but the fact that you don't have to do any of that is nice.
And yeah, and that in that migration file is technically where we linked the two tables. This is just saying that if we want to have a pet and say, okay, give me that pet's user, this is just a helper function within our
Yeah.
ORM then to say, hey, give me that. So we'll go ahead and
Yeah.
go to the user model too. And just for simplicity, so user.php, we'll also add the um, public function of pet.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Just it has many though, right?
And
Just
I
one?
actually, yeah, we'll actually do public function pets. I don't know why I said pet
Oh yeah. Okay.
there.
This should be has
Um,
many, right?
yes, perfect. You are
Cool.
correct. Awesome.
Okay, cool.
Perfect. Now we can go back to our Volt and make this super quick.
Okay,
Um,
cool. So let's close this. Let's go to, what was it called?
Playground.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay, cool. Good memory. Okay, so at this point, like we've got state here for that particular component, but we don't need that. We want to like actually get an element out of the, it's not an element. We want to get a row out of the database or the logged in user, I guess. Is that how we're going to do it through auth?
Yep. So a couple things. So that we'll still need the state to basically bind it to the form when we submit it. But
Oh, okay.
when
Yeah.
we're pulling, what we do is if we in our use function up on the very top, we'll add another parameter after state. We can do comma and then with.
Okay.
Perfect. And then underneath state, for example, we can call the with parameter. Oh, it's not with state. Sorry, it's just
Oh, sorry.
with.
Okay. Oh,
And then
okay.
what we'll do is we can call pets. So we'll do an array.
Okay.
And actually we'll do an array within that function. So with array.
Okay. Okay. So wait, how am I doing it as an array?
Oh,
It's,
sorry. Similar, almost really similar to like the state, where it'll be an array of um, variables. So
oh, okay. Okay.
yeah, you can remove the pets.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Perfect.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, so what am I putting in here now? That's the,
And then we can do pets as a string.
okay.
And then this is where we can do, we'll do the arrow syntax.
Okay.
And actually sorry, the equals arrow.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Okay.
Equals arrow. And then we can call auth, that's capital A, auth,
Okay.
colon, user, pets. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's
Oh,
my, the double quotes is my thing for emojis. Double quote.
oh yeah.
Okay. So user there, and then pets.
Arrow pets. And then that will be a function as well. So
Yeah.
um, brackets, and then we'll call get.
Okay.
So the arrow as well. Yeah. Perfect.
Okay.
And then that would be a function. Okay, perfect. Awesome.
Okay.
That should be good. So now we have this pets array that we can then
Okay.
push into our form. And since we don't
Okay.
have any yet, what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and echo them out. So this is where we'll use some blade as well. So after the form here, what
Yeah.
we can do is call a for each, and that's an at. So
Okay.
this is blade syntax right now, at for each. Perfect. And then we can call $pets.
Okay.
Then the
And
next
dollar
one
pet
is,
or
yep, $pet. You got it.
okay.
And then we have access to every pet. And you,
Okay.
you don't actually have to use the
Oh,
brackets.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good like that. Okay.
Yep. Yep. And this is
Okay.
where we can echo out the pet name and
Okay. Can
pet species, for example.
and I can do markup in there, right?
Yep. Yep. That's correct.
Okay.
So that for each block is
Okay.
just a
Okay. So let's just do this. We might as well make it a list, make it accessible. So okay, pet, and then it has a name and a breed. So we could do this, comma, species, not breed. Sorry. Uh, okay, and then this would okay. I see where you're going with this. So this is always the list of the pets, and this would just be submit another pet. Okay.
yep. Yep.
Okay.
Then
Okay.
we
So
can
let's
go
save
ahead,
this and see.
save this, and define
Okay,
variable.
undefined variable pets. Did we?
Um, 1 second, real quick.
Or is it?
In oh, I think it's because if you go up to the width function, I think we need to actually um return that as Uh,
Let's see, auth user pets get. It seems to. Let's see here. Dollar pets.
pull this up real quick.
Yeah. I guess one question I have is it says with state
Oh
here,
yeah,
and
that's it. That's the reason why.
so it should just be with.
Yes, just
Or
with.
okay, okay. Let's see here. Let me refresh. Okay,
Perfect.
there we go.
Now we're
We
not
don't
seeing
have any
anything because we
pets.
don't have any. Yep. Yep.
Okay,
So why don't
as
we
expected. Okay.
speed run the form real quick? We'll
Okay,
go.
so
My bets do you
name.
have?
Okay, and I'll just copy this, and then we'll fix the wiring up in a second, and we'll see. Obviously, if this was like like a production form, I'd have a drop down of species, but we're not going to do
Yep.
that. Okay, so now for the model, this is where we have to wire up the state so we can update the actual model.
Yep, you're correct. So we
Okay,
can go up in that state array up at the top and put these
okay,
in. But yeah, we can do name and species. Perfect.
okay. All
And
right,
we can actually
and
just set them to blank variables if we want to.
okay,
This is so that would automatically infer that it's a string,
okay,
and then we're good to go there. And now instead of this increase age function, we'll do so it's going to get a little longer. We'll do a full one.
okay,
Um, but we can just call maybe add pet maybe. So dollar
okay.
sign add pet.
Yeah, and then I feel like Copilot knows what it's doing, but
And then it's going to be equals function.
okay.
Yeah, there we go. And then um and we don't even have to input the name and species there. It's just going to be the brackets for function.
Uh, oh yeah, because it's in the state already, right?
Yep, exactly. You got
Oops.
it.
Here, let me just get rid of these here. And these should be this dot name, uh,
Dollar
or this.
sign this dot
Okay.
name.
Uh, yeah, name, and then this. Uh, not dot. Sorry. Arrow function, right? Is that right?
Yep.
Or
So
is it?
dollar sign in front of this and not in front
Oh
of
yeah,
name
here.
or species.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So this just kind of says it's this specific class. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. So that looks good.
Awesome.
Okay,
And then
let's see.
wire.
Increment value. Okay, that yeah, this doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So, um, so this should be add pet here actually.
Yep. Add pet. And we don't have to pass in any value yet.
Okay, and then okay, we don't need this. Okay, just for good form, add pet. Let's refresh. Okay, so we don't have any pets yet. So Sparky, you are going to be a dog.
No, it's a type of number still.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Thank you. Thank you form validation and uh
Oh, good old
yeah,
client side validation.
yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. Let's do Sparky and species dog or canine, sure. Okay, add pet. Nice. Nice. Okay,
Beautiful.
and then Garfield, feline. Okay. What did I do wrong there? Oh, okay. That, yeah, okay, yeah, that's good. Um,
And one thing to
okay.
note too that might have been an issue too is we need to add a wire key to that for each loop.
Okay, this is like a walk
Um,
too. Okay.
yep. So in that for each loop in the uh,
Or is
yep,
it
in the
wire colon
li
key?
wire colon key. Yep, that's correct. And then so we can have equals, and then in here we'll do double brackets, and we can just do dollar sign pet. We can call the ID there.
Okay, cool. All right. Oh, that's submitted twice because I had it in the form still. But okay, cool. No, this is I mean, I fumbled a little bit, but like honestly, that was pretty quick to get this built out.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and that's all save and persisted to the database specific to that user too, because that's what we called from the and one thing to note with that function that we called, what that's
Yeah.
saying is the reason why that live update was happening and we're seeing more pets being added. This with says anytime this component is re-rendered. So if we're
Yeah.
calling a function that's re-rendering, we're going to grab that stuff again. So it's calling
Okay.
uh, that database call whenever we add one so that we can
Yeah.
actually display it on the page.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah. Jason in the chat's like, nice, very nice.
Very
Yeah.
nice. Very
No.
nice.
Yeah. I gotta say, well, I know we're close to time here. Well, we're doing we're in overtime, but like, this was super cool, and like, I really wanted to, come in with an objective mind here. Like, I don't really like trashing languages and stuff, but I know, people do make fun of PHP, but it's a good language, and like Laravel is obviously super popular, and I think like we only kind of scratched the surface here. Like we were talking about
Yeah.
some newer stuff, Volt, but like this was super approachable. Like I I would feel comfortable on my own now just continuing to build out something, because like we did a few things. Like obviously I still have some learning to do, but this was like, yeah, super approachable and not hard to grok, and obviously there's some syntax differences, but
Yeah.
you know every language has a different syntax, but it's, yeah, no, this was super cool, and I know you're super busy, but this I really appreciate you taking the time out to hang with me today. If you're ever up for another time, my schedule's a little full at the moment, but like maybe in the fall, if you want to dig into another piece of Laravel, or some other aspect, I'd be totally down for that, and I think the chat would be too, so
Yeah, no, I would love that. Yeah, I think that like what you kind of mentioned is we scratched the surface because I think that what we were kind of showing was, hey, here's what modern PHP looks like, especially if you're not
yeah.
used to what's being displayed on the page for
Yeah.
people who are used to the front end. But I think the beauty of PHP really comes into what we only scratched the surface of, like the database stuff of like, within 10
Yeah.
minutes we started saving things to the database. But then that's where you have all the okay, maybe at when we save something to the database, we want to send an email
Yeah.
to someone, or we want to, every every day at 12 a.m. we're sending an email saying that, hey, here's all the pets that you have. Is this accurate?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I
Yeah.
think that's where you kind of get into what the full stack batteries included piece actually
Yeah.
actually means.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I know we didn't touch on this, but like um I'm sure there's many places you can deploy Laravel apps to. Uh are there like some common places to, like, basically the last time I used PHP, I think I was deploying it to shared hosting on Bluehost. I don't even know, or DreamHost. I
Yeah.
don't even know if that exists still or not, but yeah, I guess I guess I'll, and so you don't have to like kind of pigeonhole or upset anybody. I'll ask you, where do you typically deploy your Laravel apps? That way it's only for you. So
Yeah, yeah. No, I would say as a two-part answer, like the Laravel team and Laravel community has a bunch of great opportunities, whether that's first party support. So first party support would be like Laravel Forge and Laravel Vapor. Laravel Forge would be more like, hey, here's we connect to your DigitalOcean, or we connect to your Hetzner, and we create all the things that you might need once you
okay,
upload a thing. More of still hands-on, especially for people who are used to like something like Vercel or Netlify or something like that. Then there's
yeah,
Laravel Vapor, which is basically a little bit less hands-off, but strictly for AWS. So those are two great options. I think there's going to be, a ton of more options that come up as the ecosystem expands and grows and everything like that.
yeah,
But another great option, for example, is Fly.io, which has
okay,
their own option as well. But really, you can't go wrong depending on if you like the, managing your servers.
yeah,
Laravel Forge is a great option. If you don't, there's a bunch of different options as well too.
okay, cool.
It's still
No,
it's still
appreciate it.
trickier than maybe like JavaScript deployment, but I think that's where it's exciting to see what might be coming down the pipeline too.
Yeah. No, awesome. Well, also just want to say thanks to everybody in the chat today. And Jason stuck with us the whole way. I'm sure there's a bunch of people here still, but Jason's really enjoyed the stream today, he said. So appreciate the support always, my man.
I appreciate it, Jason.
Um, what's going on Monday? Oh yeah, Monday is already June. So this Monday I'm gonna be hanging with Gant Laborde from Infinite Red. Uh, Gant, I had Gant on the Dev 2 stream when I used to work there, and we're gonna be looking in. I don't know. Gant's always great to have on. He's like, we're gonna be talking about AI stuff, probably React Native stuff. I don't know what he's gonna come up with. He was just at a conference, so he said like, I need to schedule it like in June because I want to go to this conference first, and then I can show you some stuff. So I have no idea what we're gonna be looking at, but looking forward to it. And yeah, appreciate everybody. And Josh, if you don't mind just staying on for a second, and everybody else, we'll see you Monday.